Right, let's get into it properly now, because there's a lot going on around Celtic at the moment. And trust me, we're only just getting started this season. With the fixtures already rolling, the focus sharpens. The time for preseason theorizing is over now. It's about performance results and who's stepping up when it matters. And while Sunday's match against St. Mirren might not have been a classic, it opened the door for some honest reflections. But before we bury that game for good, we've got to talk about what's ahead. And that includes a massive European tie that could shape the trajectory of our entire season. The Champions League playoff draw is now confirmed and the path is pretty clear, at least in theory. Celtic will face either Slovan Bratislava or Kairat Almaty in the final round before the group stages. And listen, there's not just pride and prestige on the line here. It's a place in Europe's elite competition and a check worth over £4 million. That kind of money changes everything, especially when we're talking about building a squad capable of competing on multiple fronts. Now, the first leg between Slovan and Kairat kicks off tomorrow in Almaty with the return in Bratislava next week. That means we've got just under 2 weeks to prepare for whichever team comes through. If it's Kairat, we're talking about one of the longest away trips in club football. Seriously, Glasgow to Almaty is nearly halfway to Australia. And while it might sound like a logistical nightmare, it's not completely unfamiliar territory. Celtic have made the journey to Kazakhstan before, and there are still people at the club, Brendan Rodgers included, who've experienced it firsthand. That should help. But it's not just about the travel. Almaty presents challenges on the pitch too. Long distance travel, time zone differences, and different pitch conditions can all mess with rhythm and preparation. These aren't excuses. They are real factors that can affect performance if not managed correctly. That said, this is Celtic. These are the games we should be winning, full stop. If it's Slovan, on the other hand, it's a different type of challenge. More European experience, more technical structure, and a side that knows how to win qualifiers. If they get past Kairat, that will be 6 European ties won on the bounce. That says a lot. And anyone who remembers our past meetings with them knows they're not mugs. Yes, we blew them away at Celtic Park last time, but 2-leg ties are a different beast entirely. You give teams like Slovan an inch and they'll take a mile. But here's what I found interesting. Reading some Slovakian media outlets reacting to the draw, it's clear they're not exactly thrilled about facing Celtic. Some described us as the toughest possible opponent. Now, that might sound like a throwaway comment, but I think it says something deeper. It wasn't that long ago Celtic were being seen as a soft draw in these stages, the kind of big-name club that had lost its bite in Europe. But things are shifting. The way we pushed top teams in last year's group stage, Bayern Munich especially, has clearly not gone unnoticed. Teams are starting to look at us differently again. And that matters. Now let's talk about a fixture schedule and the option Celtic now have to postpone the league match between the 2 legs of the playoff. Thanks to a rule change by the SPFL, any Scottish team reaching the final round of European qualifiers can request a postponement for their Matchday 3 Premiership game. No need for approval from the opponent. That means our scheduled match against Livingston at Celtic Park on Saturday the 23rd of August can be moved. And let's be honest, David Martindale wasn't exactly going to grant us any favors, was he? Now there's been no confirmation yet from Celtic whether they'll take that option. But for me, it makes sense. I get the argument about needing match sharpness, getting minutes in the legs, keeping the rhythm, but you've got to balance that against the risk of injuries, especially with some key players still managing their fitness. Alistair Johnston, Cameron Carter-Vickers, even Kieran Tierney. None of them are quite 100% yet. If moving that Livingston game gives them a few extra days to recover or avoid unnecessary fatigue, then for me it's a no-brainer. We've got the depth to handle a midweek reschedule in September. Some fans are worried that postponing fixtures leads to pile-ups later in the season, but from what the SPFL said, any postponed games would be rescheduled quickly, no later than the end of September. That's manageable. And look, Aberdeen have already chosen to push their fixture back for the same reason. It's not controversial, it's strategic, and strategy is exactly what we need going into a tie that could define the early part of our season. Whether it's Almaty or Bratislava, neither side will just roll over. We're going to have to be sharp, organized, and clinical, and that means giving the squad the best conditions to succeed. If that means sacrificing a Saturday fixture against Livingston, no disrespect to them, then so be it. But even with all this planning and preparation, there's one truth that keeps echoing louder. Celtic need more quality, specifically in the attack. Watching the game back against St. Mirren without the emotion of live viewing, you could see the gaps clearly. The defense honestly looked solid. Cameron Carter, Vickers, and Liam Scales were strong. Alistair Johnston did well in his inverted role. TIERNEY in the first half was a force of nature. His crosses were dangerous. His movement was sharp. Honestly, could have had 3 assists before the break. That link up with Maida still needs polishing, but you can already tell it's got real potential. Midfield was hit or miss. Callum. McGregor did his usual tidy job. Hatate was buzzing around but couldn't quite nail that final ball. Negron was, well, disappointing, but let's give the lad a bit of leeway. First competitive game, different tempo, physical opponents. He'll grow into it. But up front, that's where things felt stale. Yang didn't really offer much. Edda, and look, I know this is a debate, but he's not a Celtic starter. He's not hopeless, not even close. He scored 20 goals last season. You don't do that if you're useless. But he's not the kind of striker who leads the line in the Champions League. His movement, his first touch, his link-up, it's just not sharp enough. And right now, he's our first choice. That's a problem. Ideally, Edda is your second option. The guy you bring on with 25 minutes to go or start in certain domestic games. But right now, he's our guy. And it feels like the club are dragging their feet on bringing in that top-tier striker. If we go into a playoff tie with no reinforcement, there we're taking a huge gamble. Same goes for the wings. We need a right winger. We probably need another left winger too, even if it's just a loan. And then there's the fullback situation. TIERNEY looked great, but he's not going to play 50 games this season. That's not even a criticism. It's just reality. He's coming off a period with injuries, and he was cramping up in the second half of the first game. And who's the backup? Liam Scales, come on. He did well as centre-back, but he's not a left-back. Hasn't been for years. And then you've got Anamura, who wasn't even in the squad. Can't rely on someone who's not even making the bench. So yeah, one game into the season, and the holes are already obvious. Celtic need a second-choice left-back. They need a proper right winger. They need a new striker, not prospects, not ones for the future. First-team ready players. Guys who walk into the starting 11 and raise the level. That's the standard. And look, I'm not spiraling here. I'm not throwing my hands up in despair. There's still time in the window. But we can't afford to wait until the last 48 hours to make 3 major signings. If this club is serious about competing in Europe and dominating domestically, those signings should be coming now. We've got a solid defensive base. We've got some midfield control. But without attacking quality, it doesn't mean much when you're chasing games in Europe or trying to break down a low block on a cold Saturday in Dundee. This tie against Slovan or Kairat is not just about reaching the group stage. It's a test of where Celtic are going. Are we the team that punches back into Europe's elite? Or are we content just to hover around the qualifiers hoping for a bit of luck? That decision, that statement of intent, comes in how we prepare, how we strengthen, and how we execute over the next few weeks. Alright, so let's go back to that St. Mirren game for a bit, because I know a lot of folk just want to move on, pretend it didn't happen, and focus on the Champions League. And trust me, I get that. It wasn't a thriller, wasn't even close to a great performance, but there were moments buried in there that are worth talking about. Especially when you strip away the emotion of watching it live and go back with a clear head. That's what I did. Rewatched it properly without the heart rate going through the roof, and as usual, you see things a bit differently. Now, I'm not about to sit here and tell you Celtic were brilliant. We weren't. It was patchy slow at times and lacked rhythm. But there were spells, especially in the first half, where you could see what Brendan Rodgers is trying to build. Kieran Tierney, for instance, was absolutely flying down that left-hand side. It's easy to miss it in the moment when you're frustrated that chances aren't going in, but watching it back, you realize just how effective Tierney was. Not just bombing forward, but the quality of his delivery, the timing of his overlaps, the way he was opening up the pitch. He looked like a proper threat again, the kind of player who gives you 5 or 6 dangerous moments a game. He could have easily walked away with 2 or 3 assists. There was one ball to Ida that deserved a better finish, another one that got headed over the bar, and he had a couple of half chances himself too. This is what Tierney brings when he's fit. Directness, intensity, real drive. How you could see how uncomfortable he made St. Mirren every time he got on the ball, but And it's a big but. There's a very clear issue with his fitness. He cramped up late on, and it's not hard to see that he's not at full capacity yet, which, again, just reinforces the point. Celtic have to bring in a proper left back to rotate with him. Not a converted center half, not a youth player, a real reliable option. And I don't want to hear that Liam Scales is that guy. Look, I've got respect for what Scales did at center back. He stepped in last season when no one expected him to put in solid shifts. And to his credit, he's looked decent again this year. But let's not kid ourselves. He's not a fullback. It's not his natural game. It's not where he's most effective. And every time we shove him out wide, it just dilutes what we're trying to do on the left. If we want the best out of TIERNEY, and we need him at his best, then we also need someone who can properly cover that role when he's not available. Back to Sunday, Alistair Johnston was another one who looked better on second viewing. Still playing that inverted role, drifting into midfield. And while he didn't stand out massively during the game, you could see he was doing a lot of the dirty work. His positioning was good, won most of his duels, and was neat in possession. Quietly. Effective. Brendan clearly trusts him in that role, and the balance between him tucking in and TIERNEY staying wide gives the side some variety. It's not quite clicking yet, but the framework is there. Then you've got the center halves. Liam Scales and Cameron Carter-Vickers. Solid. Simple as that. They dealt with everything St. Mirren threw at them: aerial balls, long punts, physical duels. It wasn't the kind of game that tested their pace or distribution too much, but they did their jobs without fuss. That's the kind of stability Celtic fans have been crying out for at the back. If JSP is coming in to partner Carter-Vickers long term, that gives us even more depth, and it means Scales can drop into the rotation properly rather than getting thrown around a pitch like a utility man. Now the midfield is where things started to wobble. Callum McGregor, as always, was steady. You know what you're getting from him. He dictates the tempo, covers the ground, and does the simple things well. But around him, it was a bit of a mess. Hatate showed flashes, got on the ball a lot, but his final decision-making was poor. He tried to force the killer pass too often, and most of them didn't come off. Still, you'd rather a player try and fail than not try at all, and Hatate never hides. He'll get sharper. Negron, though, yeah, that one's a bit of a worry. He looked really lively in preseason, like he was going to bring something different. But on Sunday, he just didn't look up to speed, got bullied a bit physically. Didn't influence the game much and never really got into a rhythm. Again, I'll cut him some slack. When it's his first proper match, the pace is different, the pressure is higher, and maybe the crowd got to him a little. But still, when you're relying on new signings to make a difference straight away, you need more than that. I still think he's got something, but he'll need to adjust quickly because these games don't get easier. And then we come to the attack. And I'll be honest, it just wasn't good enough. Yang was poor, really poor. His decision-making was off. He didn't beat his man enough, and he looked unsure of what his role was. It's frustrating because when you see him in training or in preseason highlights, he clearly has ability. But there's a difference between having talent and applying it under pressure in competitive games. Right now, he looks miles off it. That right wing spot should have been strengthened in the summer already, and the fact we're heading into a Champions League playoff with Yang as the starter is alarming. And Eder, right, let's talk about Adam Eder, because this is the conversation that just won't go away. He's one of the most polarizing players in the squad. Some fans think he's utterly useless, others think he's misunderstood. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. No, he's not hopeless. You don't score 20 goals in a Celtic shirt if you're hopeless. But is he the guy you want leading the line against Champions League opposition? Absolutely not. His movement is sluggish, his touch is inconsistent, and he doesn't link play the way we need our number 9 to do. He had chances against St. Mirren, more than I remembered at first. A couple of headers, a scuff shot, one where he hit the post, and yeah, on another day, maybe he bags one or two. But his all-round game just isn't good enough to lead the line at this level. He doesn't hold the ball up well, doesn't bring others into play, and too often promising attacks die when the ball reaches him. He's a decent squad option. He can come on late because problems grab goals when teams are tired, but he's not the main man, and the fact that he is the main man right now is a reflection of the club's failure to bring in a proper striker. There's also this nagging concern that we might not bring one in before the window shuts, and that's a terrifying thought. If the club gambles on Eder and Yang carrying us through Europe, it could derail everything before the season even kicks into gear. It's not fair on the players either. putting them in positions where they're being asked to do more than they're capable of. We need signings now. And while we're on that subject, the whole Brendan signings versus club signings thing is bubbling up again. Yamada didn't get on the pitch. Johnny Kenny came on instead. And that's not a dig at Kenny. He had a good preseason, and Brendan clearly likes him. But Yamada looked sharp when he played last season, and he's barely had a sniff. Some are starting to wonder whether Brendan is sidelining players he didn't personally choose. Inamura didn't even make the bench. Again, not ideal when we're short in exactly the positions those players cover. Now, I'm not going to jump on the conspiracy train. I'd like to believe that Brendan is simply picking players based on what he sees in training. But if club signings are being ignored just because they weren't handpicked by the manager, then that's a massive problem. This is professional football. The best players should play. Simple as that. No politics, no grudges, no point proving. Just pick the guys who will win games. Speaking of winning, let's not forget that Celtic did win on Sunday, and sometimes that's what matters most. Late goal, not pretty, but 3 points are 3 points. And there was something to be said about the mentality too. The team didn't panic. They kept probing, kept pushing, and even though it wasn't wave after wave of pressure, there was always the sense that the goal would come. When McGregor's strike was disallowed, the crowd could have turned, but they didn't. They stayed behind the team. And when Macau's deflected effort hit the back of the net, you could feel the release, the kind of celebration that tells you everyone knew how important that was. It was one of the latest winners we've seen at Celtic Park in a while. Last season, we didn't win a single home league game by just 1 goal. They were all 2 goals or more. That late drama wasn't something we had to rely on before. But if this season's going to be scrappier, more unpredictable, then grinding out wins like that becomes vital. So yeah, job done. But with clear warning signs, the spine of the team looks alright. The defense is settled. Midfield has options. But up front, we're lacking badly. And with 4 weeks left in the transfer window, the pressure is on. Brendan needs players he can trust. Starters, game changers, not projects, not depth. Guys who raise the level. Because if the board doesn't, act now, we might find ourselves out of Europe before September, behind in the league and facing a long uphill battle. And no one wants that. We're in a good position, but we need to act like a big club. That means identifying the gaps and filling them with quality. Not in a panic on deadline day, not with loans or leftovers, but with real targeted signings. Because the pieces are nearly in place. A proper striker, a first-choice right winger, a backup left back, those 3 alone could transform this squad. And if the board get it right, we'll be looking at a team that not only wins domestically, but earns respect in Europe again. But if they get it wrong or worse, do nothing, then we'll be sitting here in a few weeks wondering how it all slipped away. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. The buzz around Celtic Park has reached fever pitch this week as whispers grow louder about a potential blockbuster signing. According to sources close to the club, rising star Harley Mills, widely regarded as a jewel of the championship, is poised to complete a sensational move to Celtic. The young fullback has been turning heads with standout performances south of the border, and it seems the Hoops have acted swiftly to secure his signature before Premier League clubs could pounce. Though nothing has been officially confirmed by the club, the chatter around Lennoxtown training ground suggests a deal is close, with insiders hinting that the move could be wrapped up in the coming days. Mills is said to be thrilled at the sheer prospect of pulling on the famous green and white hoops, seeing Celtic not just as a step up, but as the perfect stage to further his career. It's understood that negotiations began quietly, but picked up pace over the past week, with the player reportedly pushing for the move after being impressed by Celtic's history, a fan base, and European aspirations. While fans await an official announcement, there's growing confidence among supporters that Mills could soon be unveiled as the newest boy. Speculation has only intensified after a cryptic post on Mills' social media hinted at a move north, sparking a flurry of excitement among Celtic supporters. The post, showing an emoji of a 4-leaf clover and a plane, was enough to set forums and fan pages ablaze with theories and hopeful predictions. Mills, just 19, has already drawn comparisons to some of the game's finest attacking fullbacks due to his electric pace, tenacity in defense, and ability to whip in dangerous crosses. Many believe he could slot seamlessly in a Brendan Rodgers system, providing dynamism down the right flank. What's more, whispers have begun circulating that Mills envisions a dream partnership with a returning Kieran Tierney, creating a potentially devastating fullback duo that could wreak havoc on both domestic and European fronts. Though Tierney is still an Arsenal player, the idea of him returning to paradise has never quite faded from fans' minds, and Mills' excitement about that possibility has only fanned the flames. Could the club be quietly orchestrating a double swoop to revolutionize their defense? While it's all hearsay for now, there's no denying the sense of something big brewing in the East End of Glasgow. The timing of these developments couldn't be more intriguing, especially as Celtic look to bolster their squad ahead of a crucial Champions League campaign. The addition of a talent like Mills would not only address an area of the pitch where depth has been questioned, but also represent a clear signal of intent from the club's hierarchy. Sources suggest that Mills has already undergone a preliminary medical in London, with plans in motion for a full unveiling once personal terms are finalised. Celtic are believed to have fought off interest from several English Championship clubs, as well as scouts from Germany and France, underlining just how highly the youngster is rated across the continent. Although Brendan Rodgers has kept tight-lipped, those close to the manager believe he sees Mills as a key piece in his tactical puzzle, a player who can offer width, aggression, and youthful energy. There's also talk that Rodgers personally phoned the player, outlining his vision and convincing Mills that Celtic Park is where his game could truly flourish. All this has added to the growing narrative that Celtic are quietly assembling a squad built not just for domestic dominance, but for meaningful progression on the European stage. Meanwhile, fans and pundits alike are drawing parallels between this possible signing and past transfers that turned out to be transformative. Names like Virgil van Dijk and Moussa Dembélé come up frequently in conversations, with many wondering whether Harley Mills could be the next breakout star to use. Celtic as a springboard to greatness. The prospect of forming a deadly tandem with Tierney only adds to the allure. Insiders claim Mills has studied Tierney's career path closely and sees his own future following a similar trajectory. There's even chatter suggesting that Tierney himself has been in touch with Mills, offering encouragement and insights about life at Celtic. That level of connection could be telling, particularly given Tierney's well-documented fondness for the club and his openness to a future return. For now, everything remains in the realm of rumor, but the intensity of the speculation suggests there's more than just smoke. Mills' agents have declined to comment, but the silence from all parties has only added fuel to the fire. If this deal goes through, it could mark the beginning of an exciting new chapter for Celtic, one powered by youth, ambition, and a touch of homegrown grit. Ultimately, whether Mills officially joins Celtic or not, the sheer weight of the rumors points to a club on the move. For months now, fans have called for smart investment in key areas, and a signing like this would suggest the board is finally listening. It's clear that Mills fits the mold of a modern fullback, aggressive in the press, composed on the ball, and fearless in attack. His potential link-up with Tierney is already being described as explosive by those within the footballing circles, conjuring images of overlapping runs, pinpoint deliveries, and relentless energy on both flanks. While it remains to be seen if Tierney will indeed return this summer, the mere mention of such a duo has brought a renewed sense of optimism among the Parkhead faithful. The thought of seeing two high-caliber, attack-minded fullbacks bombing forward in the famous Celtic shirt is enough to send shivers down the spine of any opposition manager. Until an official statement drops, all fans can do is speculate, dream, and refresh their feeds in the hope of seeing that iconic "Welcome to Celtic" announcement. For now, the rumor mill keeps turning, and the prospect of Harley Mills donning the hoops grows ever more tantalizing. Hello, fan! Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.